Greetings and welcome to the Acentury Channel. My name is David Shin. I am your host for today's session. In today's topic of discussion, we cover the Open RAN and ORAN communities. We weigh in on the differences, what they are, their mandates, and provide some insight on some of the challenges the open communities face. Today, we have Leo Lin, VP of Solutions Development from Acentury Inc. We catch up with Leo as he begins the conversation by explaining the differences between the Open RAN and ORAN communities.
There's two topics here, right? Open RAN and ORAN. I know a lot of people they probably confuse between these two forums. So Open RAN is I think it's formed by a lot of small vendor plus some major player on the internet side, like for example Facebook, Intel, or those not the typical telecom equipment vendor like Ericsson and Nokia, Huawei, or ZTE, right? And ORAN is different. ORAN is originally is a two organization. One is led by AT&T, another is led by China Mobile. Then I think a few years ago, they both organizations they sit down together. Why don't we just get a single one to standardize that? Then they form the ORAN. So the ORAN, the typical members like all the operator plus the major equipment vendor, like including Ericsson, Huawei, and Nokia, ZTE, or those the big telecom equipment vendor. So that means that's a little bit different, right? It's for those member in the ORAN, typically they don't prefer this Open RAN solution, right? So that the why Open RAN is a lot of operators start looking at the Open RAN. The idea is they try to push down the equipment cost.
Right. So it's a CapEx discussion.
The CapEx discussion.
So I guess what we're talking about here is you have your typical equipment vendors, the Nokias of the world, the Ericssons, the Huaweis. They have proprietary technology for the RAN, and now what we're talking about is making it a little bit more open, removing that front-end capital cost, making it cheaper, and that's, I guess, the overall goal, right?
For the operator point of view, right? They don't want to be controlled by those major equipment vendor like Ericsson, Huawei, ZTE, or Nokia, right? So that the purpose they want to have this Open RAN. They want to deal with as many as possible, right? With the vendor, right? If they can introduce a lot of small player or something, they can significantly drive down the cost.
Okay.
Right? But the problem is small vendor, typically they don't have enough resource to develop a carrier grade solution.
Right.
Finite, we're about finite, right? And so that's the challenge for sure. So if you're talking about this network, right? There's a multiple role here. First, you have the equipment supplier, and then second, you need the system integrator, right? Because right now it's those major equipment vendor, they play that role as well as a system integrator. Right. So that comes the problem regarding the Open RAN. If those small equipment vendor, they supply a lot of network element or something, that problem is the question will be the operator need to ask the question: who is going to integrate all those element together?
Right. So we have the Open RAN community that appears to be founded by obviously the equipment vendors as well as the operators. So there's the mandate to make it more open to drive down costs. That's kind of what they're trying to get at. Then you have that's the ORAN community. Then you have the Open RAN community, which is driven by smaller players, Facebook, and I believe they do have one of the bigger players as well. Yeah. Similar mandate, right? Will we say that it's the same thing, to make it more open, drive the cost down, and then make things more interoperable more, and then obviously drive innovation. I think that's sort of the intent of open technologies anyway. It's to make it more open so that you can encourage more players to be involved, and you can accelerate your innovation, and everybody wins. And so what you're saying is the difference is basically it's the members, right? So it sounds like sort of your traditional equipment vendors and operators appear to be aligned more so with the Open RAN side, and then sorry, on the ORAN side, and then on the Open RAN you have other upcoming and newer players that are trying to get into the marketplace. And I think the point that you're bringing up is the challenge is first building carrier grade type services and solutions, but also the ability to integrate all those individual elements together, right?
Yes.
I think that if I were to look at this analogously, 10 years ago, the OpenStack community was part of your infrastructure and IT. It was your open source virtualized tool that could virtualize workloads. And it sounds very similar in terms of its initiative. It was trying to drive down cost and CapEx, but ultimately the OpEx could possibly supersede that of the CapEx to begin with. So it's a very interesting situation, and I feel like this is not something that's going to get solved overnight. And this will be like, who is going to be that integrator? Who is going to support that network? I think this is the biggest challenge for both communities, let's say, right?
Yeah, I will say all the operators, if they really want to move to the Open RAN direction, they really need to ask themselves, are we ready yet? So, and then are we able to integrate all those network elements from different equipment vendor, and are we able to do that? And another question is, once we deploy this kind of solution on the network, right? System will be many different equipment vendor on the network. So are you ready to do the troubleshooting when something happens? Because it's really tricky. Because right now all the operator, they have they only have for example a couple of network supplier. For example, just let's stay with Ericsson, Huawei, or just Nokia or Cisco, maybe 4 or 5 major equipment vendor. So once they realize some problem and they start troubleshooting, typically it's easy to
point the finger.
On the finger first, and then second, they have been doing this for many years, right? They get used to it already, so they need to change. They need to get themselves ready before they really want to move to this direction. For sure. Before they're ready, I don't think they are able to do it right now. But if they have the plan, next 5 years or 10 years, to get themselves ready for this kind of thing, and then they can, for these 5 to 10 years, for sure they need to spend a lot of money to change their own procedure internally, for sure. And second, they need to provide a proper training to the engineer employee how to do this kind of thing, right? Because right now that it's not that it's the employee, their engineer is not ready yet. I don't think they're ready.
And I think there's another dimension to all of this. So yes, you need someone to integrate all of these different pieces. The change management challenge is all, from a management perspective, is also a challenge. How to support that as you go forward is also a challenge. But I think the other dimension to all of this is the 5G network. I mean, we're talking about an X order more of the network elements that are involved, right? We're not just, I mean, how many more X are we dealing with the 5G network? So not only do we have to deal with all the legacy issues that, let's just say, proprietary technologies have solved, but we also have to deal with now more network elements. And it would require a lot more management, automation, control. And if I were to add another dimension to all this, is security. So with all these different elements, all these different vendors, all these different and open protocols now, um, that same integrator needs to be cognizant of the security policies across
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Would you agree? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Since you just mentioned the legacy network, right? It's another major concern as well, right? All those major equipment vendors, they spend years
Yeah.
on this kind of legacy technology, the voice and the traditional switch, and also the 3G and 4G stuff, right? And yeah, for those member in the Open RAN community, right? They focus on 5G only, or maybe a little bit they
Right.
on 4G because they don't want to deal with the very old technology, right?
Of
But
course.
unfortunately, all major operators they have a huge network with the legacy technology.
Right.
So how to do this kind of thing is a really challenge for those open RAN members. Yeah.
Yes. I think that this concept of legacy technology and how you balance between that and new technologies, in this case 5G,
Hmm.
new radio, is a major challenge for these guys. I mean, it's almost easier if it was greenfield, but it's
Yeah.
not. So I think in many operators too, they have to deal with different problems. Like I think I read, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, some of the interoperability, like the integration points, are different. So in China, for example, they're not trying to integrate with, say, 4G core like they do potentially here.
Hmm.
So they have the I think they've invested a significant amount to sort of just kind of start from scratch. But in our case, to deploy our 5G network, I think we are trying to integrate with the 4G core,
Hmm.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So
You're right.
there's different challenges for different operators in different regions, and all of this. I mean, I will say though, conceptually, it would be fantastic
Mhm.
for an open community to work. I think whether it's ORAN and Open RAN, this is definitely not like this versus that. If someone can make it work and it is possible, then that's fantastic. I think it would be the benefit for everyone. But right now, I think it's just going to take time. I think it's going
Mhm.
to take time. And the good news is, I think it's a great opportunity for new players, new companies to get involved and help with this problem, help
Mhm.
with the deployment of a network, help
Mhm.
with the automation problem, help
Mhm.
with the management problem. I mean, there's no time in our history. I mean, this is sort of the last frontier. We saw it with OpenStack and sort of your classic IT workloads, but it's now starting to spill into the mobile networks.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. If you look at the Open RAN situation globally, right? There's a two. We can say it's a tier one operator. The only two, right? Tier one operator deploy the network.
okay,
Uh, like one is this network. Another one is a Rakuten. So, but if you look at both, right, they both are greenfield operator.
right,
So they're building the 5G network only.
right,
They don't have the
right,
legacy stuff or
right,
something, right? So, so for all those traditional operator, right, since they have a huge legacy network, right, and then if they want to use Open RAN, for example, Open RAN a 5G solution, the problem is they need to do the interoperability testing
right, right.
between the Open RAN 5G solution and the legacy 3G,
Mm-hmm.
4G solution. So
Mm-hmm.
that means for those small equipment vendor, they still have to deal with Ericsson, Huawei, and ZTE.
Right,
That that means that will tell you this kind of so why Ericsson and Huawei and those Nokia, those traditional equipment vendor, they need to work with those small equipment vendor, right? Why? Right? They don't have any reason to help them
right, right.
because they're sharpening the knife for myself.
Yeah.
I don't do that.
Right, right,
so so somehow the operator also need to figure out how to convince those legacy equipment vendor to work on this kind of thing, right? How to do that?
Yeah.
I don't know. It may be really challenge. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's funny when you say the sharpen the old knife, or but that's no, it's a if you were to step
But
back,
it's
and
the reality, right? It's
it
the
is
reality.
absolutely for sure. I mean, the Huawei's, the Ericssons, the Nokias. You step back and look, why would they help? I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure they have their reasons, and I'm sure they have many different schemes in mind. I mean, if I were to look at, again, taking the OpenStack example, I mean, you have someone like a Red Hat that takes a certain distribution and make sure that they can support it and sell it to enterprises and telcos. So there's an example of, let's say, an integrator that figures out, what to do there. And I imagine that there is going to be someone similar here. And then similarly with, and I think a lot of people are in that same space are turning to the Googles and the Amazons of the world, because I mean, you just cannot develop and manage as quickly as they can. So at the end of the day, I think there's certainly opportunities coming forward in the near future. So it'll be an interesting time for sure. An interesting time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and then another factor will be like this, right? If because I know all operator they start using they have been using the OpenStack software for a long time. I think for 10 years or 20 years or something like that, like a Red Hat stuff. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
so
that,
they can do this way, right? Red Hat is the software itself is free, right? So for example, for personal use, right, I can download a Red Hat Linux. Online, and then I can install it by myself. I can do it by myself, everything. But for example, take the operator like in Canada, right? I know there are a lot of them. They are using this for years, and then but at the same time, they purchase the service from Red Hat.
Correct. Yeah.
That's also very expensive as well. They can one way they can check, and then although the software itself is free, but how much dollar they spend on purchasing the service from Red Hat, and how much resource they spend internally, right? How many training, whatever, or this kind of thing. How much engineer they spend on this kind of OpenStack stuff. They can they can compare the cost actually.
For sure. I feel like we've seen this movie before. I mean, it's it's first started with IT workloads and now this. And from my sources tell me, I believe that really the only big players of OpenStack now are probably in telcos. I don't think any of the major enterprises, and there may be few, are playing in that space. They're just going straight to the major cloud providers right now. It's just, you cannot. I think they're going to have a nice little moat there for those types of things. And who knows what's going to happen now with the RAN? I don't know, but we'll see. We'll certainly.
There will be very, very similar situation.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I think so. I mean,
yeah. So you if you use Open RAN solution, yeah, for sure you save a lot of money on the hardware or some maybe the equipment itself, right? You save money over there. But at the same time, you need to spend, you jack up a lot of costs on the service you need, integration or maintenance or this kind of thing, right? And end up with that. Finally, you combine both number, CAPEX and OPEX. Probably it will be similar. If it's really similar, then why we go to Open RAN, right? We just stay with the existing equipment vendor. They're very comfortable, and then since similar, the cost will be similar. So. And what's the difference, right? It's no point, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So with that, I mean, and then of course there's the security dimension that also needs to be played out. But listen, Leo, I wanted to thank you for taking the time today. I think it was a pretty enjoyable conversation. And
another one you probably we realized, right? Recently, I think a few months back, we saw Nokia join the Open RAN forum.
Oh, interesting.
The reason I observe, I think, is Nokia is, they lost a huge opportunity in China.
Oh, interesting.
For the RAN, right? So they lost all three major operator over there. China Mobile, China Telecom, and China Unicom. And then they got zero on the RAN business.
Oh, interesting.
That's the one reason. And second, right? And I think last month they lost Verizon in US, lost to Samsung.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
That probably is the major reason Nokia joined the Open RAN, because they're kind of I don't know, they're kind of behind the competitor like Ericsson and Huawei and Samsung.
Well,
Right, that's part of. I guess that's the part of the reason. Yeah, but for sure, people in Nokia, they won't say that. That's my observation, right?
No, well, those appear to be clear facts, and thank you for bringing that up before we come to a close today. I think that that's a very interesting fact in the industry that has come about. Okay, Leo, I wanted to again thank you for your time. Thanks for chatting, and I think we'll definitely do this again. This was a fun little discussion.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks very much, Leo. Take care.
Okay. You're welcome. Okay.
Bye-bye.